presented by LineStar. We are taking a look at the division previews before the 2023 NFL season. Alongside my co-host Tyler Wiemann, I'm Shannon Sommerville. And Tyler, talking football once again, it's right around the corner. How pumped are you for this football season?
We are back. I am super excited. It's going to be a fun one. There's so many different storylines to go over this year as well.
Especially in the AFC East. And as a Jets fan, I had to rock my Jets sweatshirt today just to throw that out there. I promise to be objective when we're talking about the AFC East, though, today. We're going to be doing previews for each of the divisions leading up to kickoff. It's a great way to just talk about each of the divisions, the teams, break them all down. We're going to be talking about betting odds for win totals. We'll be talking about strength of schedule. We'll be talking about fantasy relevant players and some prop bets that are available on Underdog Fantasy for the season long props that you can play there. So if you don't already have Underdog Fantasy, make sure to download it. Use the promo code LineStar when you do, and you'll get up to $100 of your deposit matched if you use that promo code. So make sure to check that out. So Tyler, the AFC East, more like the AFC Beast. This is going to be a tough division this season. What are your initial impressions of the overall competitive nature of this division?
There's a couple things as I was looking at everything. One, the entire division has a super hard schedule.
Right.
So there's that. And then it's not like there's any break whatsoever inside the division. So I think the teams are going to be beating each other up.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the strength of schedule, and the strength of schedule according to projected win totals for these teams. If you rank them first being the easiest to 30th being the hardest, they are all 25 and over. That's just how tough their schedules are this season.
Yeah, when I was going through and just kind of like counting, where I thought teams were going to win and not whatnot, it was like, man, like there's just like a murderous row in each one of these teams they have to go through that it's going to be super hard to make it through.
So we're going to be going over each of the teams in the AFC East, and we're going to be starting off with the teams with the best odds to win the division. And of course, that's going to be the Buffalo Bills, who've won the AFC East the last 3 years. Last year finished 13-3. Now they did lose in the playoffs to the Bengals, who came into Orchard Park. However, they did beat the Dolphins in that wild card round. Looking at this Bills team, not a super flashy offseason for them by means, but it's not like they had, I guess, a whole lot of rebuilding or anything to do there. And you still got Josh Allen. What are your initial impressions of the Buffalo Bills heading into the 2023 season?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't make any flashy moves. I do think they still got better a little bit. I think Dalton Kincaid is going to give them a different look than they've had previously. And then also you have Damian Harris and another year of James Cook. And, with him being in the offense a little bit more, I think he can be pretty dynamic in this offense.
Yeah, so some notable offseason moves for them. You mentioned Dalton Kincaid. The first rounder is supposed to be a dynamic tight end that might even be used as more of a wide receiver for them. Running back Damian Harris comes over from New England. No Devin Singletary. He's in Houston now, which opens things up for our boy James Cook there. Running back Latavius Murray is also there. Linebacker Leonard Floyd. And they did shore up the offensive line a little bit as well. So some changes that needed to be made, but certainly Dalton Kincaid, a player to watch, especially for fantasy purposes. Is there anyone that stands out to you in terms of fantasy players that you're really looking forward to seeing what they have in store for 2023?
Yeah, I mean, Dalton Kincaid's going to be interesting. There's a lot of talk about him coming out of the slot, which would be great. That is, though, if that's the case, then Dawson Knox is probably going to take a big hit there. But, obviously Josh Allen, you always have to look at. Yeah. He very well could be QB1 once again this year. And then Stephon Diggs is amazing. But I think James Cook is the one that's going to be taking the biggest leap forward in this offense this year. I expect him to have the Devin Singletary role, or maybe even a little bit more than Singletary did last year. And I just think he's a more dynamic player than Singletary is/was. And so I like his outlook.
And when you're looking at the odds for the Buffalo Bills as a whole as a team, is there anything that really jumps out to you? Are they Super Bowl contenders, do you think? They kind of keep falling short the past couple of years.
I mean, yeah, the team has had another year to gel, so that's always a positive.
Hmm.
I think they are contenders, but I think this just division is going to beat themselves up so much that it might be hard for them.
Right. Yeah. The Bills still are good with Josh Allen. However, the criticism last year that they faced was it is way too Josh Allen of a focused offense.
Yes.
And when he gets banged up, as he does during the season, he's a running quarterback. Then you start to see a decline in productivity. Now, last year, he did injure his UCL, which was a major injury after
Mhm.
week 9 against that game against the Jets. And he still wound up as third in MVP voting, which goes to show you the type of player he is. I also think last season, looking at the season in a whole, Von Miller's injury was a death blow to the Bills defense
100%.
and that pass rush.
Hmm.
I think I think it would have been a different season for them, and I think they would have been in the Super Bowl with him in there. I think that it was that impactful, and I think going into this season with him healthier, I think the pass rush will be there again, taking the pressure off the offense a little bit there as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up that injury with Josh Allen because we can also talk about Gabe Davis. The UCL injury probably made it a little bit harder to go deep to Gabe Davis. And Davis was a guy that was drafted super high in fantasy leagues last season. Now he's way back to where he was, and he still has the exact same outlook as far as why everybody loved him. But we know Josh Allen got hurt. So, there's still reason to believe that Gabe Davis can take another step forward.
All right. So the win total for the Buffalo Bills set at 10.5 this season. Tyler, you mentioned the tough road ahead for all of these AFC East teams. Are you going over or under for the defending AFC East champions?
If you have to make me pick, I'm going over, but I think
Mm-hmm.
this total is one that I just would rather not bet.
Yeah, I personally will not be betting this one. However, I am
Yeah.
also leaning over here. When you look at their schedule, it's tough, but I just kind of go through and the mark down wins and losses, and I think they can clear that not easily, but there's a lot of games in there that are winnable games, and I think with everybody healthy, that group, I mean, it's one of
Hmm.
the best in the NFL, so they can kind of take care of anybody, and I do expect them. The one concern we didn't talk about Stephon Diggs in this one. I'm curious to see how the locker or the chemistry on this team will be. Is there anything to the reports that surfaced a few weeks ago about some maybe disgruntled Stephon Diggs?
So
What do you think? Anything
I,
there?
I don't think there's going to be much. Josh Allen did come out and say like there's no issues between him and Diggs and that they're boys and that he'll be
Yeah.
back. And sure enough, the next day he was back and all seems good.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case.
All right. So no drama there. So we like the Buffalo Bills
Yeah.
to go over that 10.5 total. Now, let's look at some other plays here. Do you like any of these season long plays on Underdog Fantasy?
I do. I like the Josh Allen over 32 and a half passing TDs. Look, he's
Mm-hmm.
gone over in each of the last 3 seasons. His team is very similar with maybe another weapon or two this year. There's no reason he can't do it again. And like you said, last year he had that UCL injury, but still went over, and I expect
Right.
him to do it again this year.
Yeah, I especially like the Josh Allen overs, particularly because of the UCL injury. He's still producing and performing
Yeah.
at such a high level. When he's fully healthy, he is an absolute beast, as we've
Mhm.
seen in fantasy football in particular. So, Tyler, one of the bets I'm looking at is James Cook, a player who you've highlighted as an undervalued player heading into fantasy football. I like the over on his rush total here at 600.5 rushing
Mhm.
yards. James Cook had 500 his rookie season, and now they're without Devin Singletary, who went to Houston. And you do have Damian Harris and Latavius
Mhm.
Murray there, but I just think the way James Cook performed his rookie year, yes, I know his first ever play was a fumble, but since then he kind of just played amazing, 500 yards on the ground, and I think he can be utilized in the passing game as well, and he will prove to be very effective. But particularly those rushing yards, I think he's going to get a lot of volume there. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I agree. I actually love this one. this play, along with the Josh Allen, are my two favorite from the Bills by far. And I think that Cook is probably going to be well over 800 yards. So
Ooh.
at 600, I love it.
Cook is gonna cook. I mean, he is related to
Mm-hmm.
Dalvin Cook after all. All right, let's move on to the New York Jets. Last season finished with a 7-10 record. Their odds to win the AFC East plus 250. 6 of the Jets' 10 losses came in one-score games last year, Tyler. And they did start the season 6-4, but then went on that losing streak, 6-game losing streak to end the season. But now they got a new man in town. Aaron Rodgers is there to save the day. You know how my enthusiasm just picks up a little bit talking about my New York Jets this year? It's
Oh, I
exciting
know.
to have Aaron Rodgers in the building and taking over an offense that, hey, they actually were pretty good with Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White as their quarterbacks. So that being said, the notable offseason moves, you got Aaron Rodgers. We got new offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett. The Jets signed wide receivers Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, Mecole Hardman. They also signed former Packers offensive tackle Billy Turner, and they addressed that offensive line in the draft as well. They drafted the top center prospect, Joe Tippmann, at 43rd overall. When you look at this Jets team and the moves they made this offseason, what are your impressions of if they can contend in 2023?
I think they can absolutely contend. This division, like we've said, is just going to beat itself up. But I think they have all the pieces. I mean, they have an extremely good defense. Their offense should take a step up with Aaron Rodgers. And they just have more weapons as a whole. And Breece Hall should be back and a full go. So.
Yeah, Breece Hall being back is huge, coming off of that ACL injury. And now you just don't have Zach Wilson as a quarterback. A key, I think, detriment to the team late in the season. In those games where they lost by one score was the quarterback play that you could just pinpoint. I remember specifically the Thursday night football game against the Detroit Lions, in which they just got, I mean, it was just abysmal, like, for Zach Wilson. And now you're getting Aaron Rodgers in there. And I know he's faced some criticism for how he performed last year, but let's remember he was another guy similar to Allen. He was pretty significantly banged up last season, broken thumb.
Yes.
What is your impressions of Aaron Rodgers and how he will fit into this Jets offense?
Aaron Rodgers also had nobody to throw to last year.
Correct.
You know, I mean, he brought over his boy Alan Lazard from the Packers, but they didn't really have anybody. Watson was hurt for most of the year. Lazard was hurt for a lot of the year. And, you know, he just wasn't really throwing to many weapons. He just didn't have them. He threw a ton to his running backs. And not only do I think he can do that again because of Breece Hall, but he also has, you know, a plethora of wide receiver options to throw to. So I think Aaron Rodgers is in a really good spot to succeed. My one worry with him in fantasy, and I've told you this before, is we know Aaron Rodgers plays slow. And I don't think that's the Green Bay scheme. I think it's the way he wants to play. He wants to take his time. He wants to read the defense and then, you know, make the play off of that. And his efficiency is extremely good because of it. But the slower pace of play also makes less numbers go up on the board.
Let me ask you this then. He's going QB 16 behind Geno Smith, behind Tua. Is that where he belongs? Or should he be being drafted higher?
He should be drafted higher. Absolutely. And my bet for underdog is, you know, a touchdown prop for him where we're going higher. So
excellent. So Garrett Wilson is going to be one of those guys benefiting from the Aaron Rodgers effect here. What do you see for his performance or his prospects for fantasy football performance in 2023?
Yeah, I think he's in an absolutely great spot, and I would be drafting him for sure. I mean, all the lines on underdog for him are very high, you know, over 1,100 yards, I think 8.5 touchdowns. And that's probably where those lines should be. I mean, can he get over on both of them? Yes. But, you know, they're pretty hefty lines.
Yeah. One of my favorite stats that I found was he was on pace for wide receiver 8 in fantasy football in all of the NFL with quarterbacks Mike White, Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson, the whole company. And just I think he will be a big beneficiary, not just even I think also just Aaron Rodgers will be able to kind of coach him up a little bit in a way that he hasn't been before. Nathaniel Hackett being in there in that system, I think will benefit Garrett Wilson in a way that could serve him those big leaps to hit the overs on some of those. And actually, that's one that I like as well in Underdog Fantasy.
Absolutely.
Now, Breece Hall is an interesting one. Sometimes when we see these ACL injuries, especially with running backs, they tend to have like a down year following their like immediately in their return. What do you anticipate for the Jets run game and how Breece Hall fits into that?
Well, there's one thing is that he is young, so he should be able to bounce back a little bit quicker. He might get off to a little bit of a slow start, and they actually have a very tough early season schedule. So he, I think, is somebody that would be a great in your fantasy football leagues to trade for after the first couple weeks. You know, that schedule is going to lighten up a little bit. He's going to get a little bit healthier, and he's a player that I really like next season. It's just going to be a slow start.
I also think with Breece Hall's injury in particular, the more I was reading it, and we can ask this of Dr. Chow from Pro Football Docs when we have him on in a couple of weeks, but apparently his injury was not as severe as someone like Javonte Williams, and therefore his recovery is going to could be a little bit easier. But as Dr. Chow has told us in the past, like it's just very dependent on the athlete and the way their body responds to things. Either way, Breece Hall was a monster last season when he did play. So it was so devastating when he hurt that ACL. But, I mean, a half-healthy Breece Hall is going to be an interesting one to watch.
Totally. I like Breece Hall a lot, and I'll be drafting him for sure.
All right. Win total time for the New York Jets. 9.5 is what Vegas is setting the line at. Are you going over or under?
I'm going over. I think they're getting 10 or 11 wins.
Welcome to the Jets bandwagon, Tyler. How does it feel? You know, last year in the off season, there was an interview between Sauce Gardner and this little kid Johnny. You might have seen him on the internet. He's
the ice cream
internet
guy.
Sensation, the ice cream kid. And he said to Sauce Gardner, "Listen, my dad said he's going to take me for ice cream anytime the Jets win. Am I going to be going for ice cream?" And Sauce was like, "Yep, got you." Sure enough. Hey, the Jets ripped off some wins. Johnny got some ice cream. I think he's going to get at least 10 ice creams this season. We're going over for the New York Jets. Yes, they have a tough season. And in fact, they could start the season 0-4. They've got a really tough schedule. Let me pull it out here.
To start the year.
Yeah, like really tough start. They've got the Bills. They've got the Cowboys. They've got the Patriots. They've got the Chiefs. Those are their first 4 games. However, I mean, in a way, I think it's going to take them a little bit to gel with Aaron Rodgers there. But Aaron Rodgers has turned it around in the past. Look what they did last year. We kind of counted out the Packers, and then towards the end of the season, we were like, wait, what's going on? Green Bay's starting to win some games here. So I like that kind of resiliency and, you know, the ayahuasca attitude. Is that what that is for Aaron Rodgers? The ayahuasca
absolutely.
mindset.
I totally agree, though. This team could start off a little slow. And the players for your fantasy football leagues, the players on this team are going to be great buy low options, you know, say week 3 or something like that.
Yeah, that's a really great point and something to keep an eye on there. Now, for Underdog Fantasy's season-long props, any picks for you on the Jets?
I got 2.
All right.
So over on Aaron Rodgers or higher than 28.5 passing touchdowns for Aaron Rodgers. Look, he's been over in 8 of 15 seasons. The seasons that he's missed, he either got hurt or didn't have receiving weapons. He has plenty of weapons this year, and I think they're going to need him to score a little bit, especially in this division, which it's going to be close games all year long.
Yeah, I think I messaged you earlier. Aaron Rodgers is going to have 50 touchdowns this season, and all 50 going to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson, hopefully will finally get some touchdowns. I think he had 4 last season. So get that number up there for Garrett Wilson. Get him some numbers to pad those stats and get us some of our overs. I actually like Garrett Wilson's over on his receiving yards right now set at 1140 and a half receiving yards. Keep in mind, last year he had 1103. So, like, that was with, are you kidding me? That was with Mike White, Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson, you think those numbers
And
can
being
give
a
you a
rookie.
little bit of a boost? And being a rookie, I
Hmm.
just like the over here for sure. Any others? I think you said you had two. What was the other one?
Yeah, my other one is Brees Hall over 6 rushing touchdowns. Uh, Look, he had 4 in 8 games last year. One of the games he was cut short due to injury. The other 4 he had limited touches due to it being early in the season and him being rookie. I think he's in a great spot to get over 6.
Now to the team with the third best odds to take the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins, who last season punched their ticket to the playoffs for the first time since 2016. They finished the year 9-8. The first 3 weeks of the season, they looked phenomenal. They had wins over the Patriots, Ravens, and Bills. This season, though, is going to be a tough one, as with all AFC East teams. Their strength of schedule is the most difficult, according to win projection models. So it'll be interesting to see how the Dolphins fare this season. They did make some moves this offseason and could be in for another big one with Dalvin Cook's spot still looming there. They did bring in new defensive coordinator Vic Fangio to lead that defense, and they brought in Jalen Ramsey to lock things down on defense. They drafted running back Devin Achane, who's one of the most dynamic running backs in that draft class. What are your impressions of the Miami Dolphins from a bettor's perspective?
I mean, from a bettor's perspective, I am absolutely staying away from this team. The whole reason is just there's so much volatility with this team. We don't know the health of Tua. Tua had a couple very bad concussions last year. Don't know if he'll be able to play the whole season. What happens if he gets a concussion week 3? Is he out the rest of the year? Does he miss a couple weeks and come back? There's just so many questions with his health, and that changes the forecast of this team so much that I don't really want to bet on it. And I think the numbers are a little bit too high to take that risk.
It's a little scary to be betting any of the props here, especially Tua's health has to be extremely concerning from a bettor's perspective. If you're playing in fantasy football, we know he's got the weapons and he can sling it to him. And Mike McDaniel will figure out a way to get this offense rolling. And even with Mike White there at backup quarterback, I think that's actually a big upgrade for them this offseason that maybe didn't get talked about a whole lot. That's actually really good for them. He showed some glimpses with the Jets of being able to run an offense. I mean, he certainly did a better job than Zach Wilson. So,
not saying much, but
yeah, right. Any fantasy players here that you're trying to keep an eye on?
I mean, obviously the wide receivers you got to keep an eye on. Both Hill and Waddle are great, but I do really like Devin Achane, and I think there's a real good shot that he kind of runs away with that running back job there. I think he is the most dynamic and he can do the most things with the ball. So he is very interesting. If Dalvin Cook goes there, that obviously ruins that.
Yeah.
But right now, I would absolutely be taking some shots on them. And look, it is a little bit of a crowded running back room right now, but one or two of those guys gets hurt, and one of these guys is kind of be a great kind of late round running back.
So definitely, I guess, some players to keep an eye on throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
Win total for the Miami Dolphins, 9.5. Where are you headed? Over or under? I know you're probably not betting it, but for argument's sake here.
For argument's sake, if I was to bet it, I would bet the under just because so much is in the air as far as, the health of Tua.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we're on the same wavelength here on the Miami Dolphins, Tyler. I'm with you on the under here. Next up, the New England Patriots with the longest odds to take the AFC East. Based on projected win totals, the Patriots also have one of the toughest schedules in the AFC East this season. Now, things, I guess, can't get worse for Mac Jones in that offense, being now they actually have an offensive coordinator. Bill Belichick brought in Bill O'Brien from Alabama, and what we know about Bill O'Brien in Alabama, he learned the offense there that Mac Jones had thrived under, so that's certainly a plus there. Juju Smith-Schuster comes in at wide receiver, so another guy for Mac Jones to throw it to. And those rumors swirling around that DeAndre Hopkins might land in New England. What is your outlook on the New England Patriots?
I think the Patriots are in an okay spot. I think they are going to take a step forward last year. They lost Josh McDaniels in the offseason last year. And without him, their offense was a complete mess. McDaniels went over to the Raiders, and he had been the offensive coordinator for the Patriots for a really long time. And now that they're bringing in a new guy to kind of replace the offense, get a new system in there, one that Mac is already, familiar with, I think it's good for the offense, and we know their defense is going to play well. It always plays well.
Exactly. Any fantasy players? I know one in particular that you've been highlighting so far this off season, and that's the running back.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta keep your eyes on Ramondre Stevenson. He's in a great spot. It looks like it is his job. Bill Belichick absolutely loves him. Year after year, this team is a good rushing offense, but they can also dump it off to him. So even with this division being so hard, if the Patriots are behind, Stevenson's going to still be in the game because he's going to be getting dump offs, and you can really get some points at running back if you're catching those passes too.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Ramondre Stevenson, and that's actually one of the props that I like on Underdog Fantasy for the season-long ones, and that's higher than 6 touchdowns. He had 5 last season, and that was with Damian Harris, and now he takes over that role. And now you actually have an offensive coordinator, and just the way Ramondre Stevenson's run, north-south runner, he could punch it in, and I think he will hit that over 6 touchdowns. I also like that it's 6, not like 6.5.
6.5.
So you can get
yes.
the push there as well. So that's a nice number
I
for
agree.
me that I'm very comfortable taking the over there. Do you have any bets, or are you steering clear of the Patriots?
Yeah, Stevenson, and you already put it on our sheet before the bet time, but that was the only other one.
Yeah.
I think you could go his yardage over also if you want.
Ramondre Stevenson yardage 925. Tyler, you still like the over?
Yeah, I'll still take the over. Like I said, I think he's going to be over 1,000-yard rusher, so I'm not too worried about the 925.
Excellent. All right, so we got some good bets for you, fantasy players to watch. If you have any questions or comments, drop them below, and we want to hear from you guys. What do you think about the AFC East for 2023? And before we end this podcast, Tyler, who is your prediction to win the AFC East in 2023?
I think
carefully.
It's going to be the Buffalo Bills.
We agree. I'm actually. Can you believe I am fading the Jets here? I don't think they're going to win the division.
To be honest, I think it's going to be very close, and
yeah.
I counting out the wins, I have the Jets at 10 or 11, and I think I have 10 for Buffalo, but I just think that as a team that they have been together a little bit longer, there's not going to be a period where they have to gel, and to start the season last year, they were by far the best team before injuries. So I think, they're clearly the favorite now.
Yeah, they definitely have it together. They've been the most consistent and reliable. The Jets, we haven't seen this team together, so it's easier to sit with the Buffalo Bills, who've done it the past 3 seasons, although the Jets definitely have the talent level to take the AFC East. I do worry, though, about the front end of that schedule. Those first 4 games could put them behind a little bit. That's where I'm headed. I guess I'm picking the Buffalo Bills, but of course, I think the Jets are going to make it to the playoffs, and maybe they'll make a little run at it, hopefully. It's nice to have some positive news surrounding the New York Jets, Tyler. It's been a rough existence as a Jets fan, okay?
They're going to be a very exciting team. The one thing I will bring up, which I sent you earlier, Aaron Rodgers, quote, while talking at a psychedelics summit, he says, "I guarantee you all these bums who want to come after me online about my experience and stuff, they've never tried it." He added, They're the perfect people for it. We need to get these people taking it. Success in life was holding the Lombardi trophy. Now I've done it. Now what? Now what's the purpose in all of this? So I don't know if that's giving you, a ton
what,
of
Tyler?
hope.
Musing, life's overall meaning. I don't have any issues with, and I think it's interesting that he kind of alluded to the fact that he was maybe doing ayahuasca with some teammates, and I'm just curious who that was.
Hey, if he
Do
was,
what you got to do.
it's a good thing for your Jets because he was the MVP when he did it in the off seasons before those. So
you're exactly right, and that's another thing. It's like a motivated and engaged Aaron Rodgers, also a little bit maybe angry about how things went down in Green Bay, is a very good Aaron Rodgers. Whenever we've seen him mad about something, he comes back and has an MVP season. So
absolutely.
we're in a
The
good
one thing about that quote that does worry me is the fact that he's like, like, I already did it. Now what? It's like he's already moved on. But if he is a motivated Aaron Rodgers, then that is a very dangerous thing for the AFC East.
Sure is. It'll be a good one to watch. Make sure, if you haven't already, do us a huge favor if you're enjoying our content. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel. Comment below. Let us know your thoughts on the upcoming season. Sign up for those notifications too. We're going to be having a lot of content come out over the following weeks, getting ready for football season. But we also have our daily props shows where we give you the best prop bets. I'm so excited for props this NFL season, Tyler, because we got the Props AI tool on the LineStar app, which has helped me tremendously in baseball season. So I'm looking forward to using that puppy to fire it up for the NFL football season. Make sure to check that out. LineStarApp.com is where you can get that. And once again, if you're playing Underdog Fantasy, maybe you're in some best ball tournaments, if you don't already have that app, make sure to download it and use our promo code LineStar for up to $100 of your deposit matched. Got to get in the game. Tyler loves his best ball drafts, does it while he's walking his dog, just about all the time. Have you done any best ball drafts yet, Tyler?
Not yet. I actually am probably going to fire up my first one today.
Oh. We'll have to know how it goes on the next podcast.
I'm excited.
You got to tune in and sign up for notifications. All right.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for us today, talking to AFC East. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.